please feel free to come off of mute, ask the questions. Please feel free to interrupt as you may see fit. But we will have a question and answer section at the end of it. So if your question can wait, please also wait for the end. So we'll just get started with the presentation. So my name is Jasmine Robinson. I work for the College of Business and Analytics in the Placement Center. And there I do student development. So things like this, offering free resources to students, such as resume writing, cover letter writing, mock interviews, just resources, finding internships and things of nature. And then also I oversee the entire internship process in the program. So for students who are looking for internships, I'm your kind of person that you'll come talk to in order to get that process started and to gain resources. So tonight we'll be talking about Resume 101. I'll be walking you through what a resume looks like as things have drastically changed over the last couple of years as new recruiting practices have changed, technology have changed, the way we look at resumes and things have changed. So tonight we'll focus on just the components of the resume, but then also at the end of it, we'll talk about the applicant tracking system. If students have heard of it, if not, this will be the prime time to really get some information about those systems and how they work. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt and or wait to the end. So resume writing, why do we need a resume? So your resume essentially is just a marketing tool where you can obtain interviews with. Now, I always tell students that a resume is what gets you through the door. Your interview is what gets you the job. So your resume is needed. This is the first thing that an employer will see when you go to apply for a position. So if you have no personal connections to the company, if you have never physically met a recruiter and things of that nature, your resume is the very first thing that the employer will see of you. So it's very imperative that your resume looks really good and it is a true representation of all of your accomplishments, your professional experiences, your RSO involvements and things of that nature. I have not come across any job out there that you do not need a resume for. So this is a requirement of many organizations and all organizations. Your resume outlines your skills and experiences so an employer can see you at a glance, and that's how you can contribute to their organization. So again, your resume is one-page document where an employer can say, you know what, I want to interview this person, or I want to know more about this person. So this is why we need a resume. So when you're going through interviewing processes, or you're going through the job searching process and or an internship search process, if not all, majority of the employers take 10 seconds or less to view your resume. So when we're screening, for example, when I'm screening for new applicants, whether that's student workers or graduate assistants or full-time employees, we have many that comes in, on average between 40 and 50 applications. I'm not going to take 10 minutes or more or 2 or 3 minutes or more to look at resume. So initially, it's just a quick glance to see if the student is organized, if their resume is easily organized and things of that nature. So that's how we separate it from the initial process. And then from there, we'll have a yes pal, a no pal. And then from the yes pal, we'll try to go through and look at it more in depth. So 10 seconds or less to seal this up. So it's imperative that resumes are consistent, they're clean and things of that nature. And then at the bottom bullet point, while you may have all the requirements for a particular job, if the employer does not quickly come to the conclusion that you have what it takes, then your resume has failed the process. Now, during this 10 seconds or less, I'm going to talk about at the end how we have transitioned from humans like myself reading resumes to now systems reading resumes. So hidden messages in a resume. So on the left-hand column, or my left-hand column, you'll see resume. On the right-hand, you'll see you. These are hidden messages that lies within your resume. So if your resume is neat, I as an employer can assume that you're a neat person. If it's well organized, I can assume you're a well organized person. If it's ever free, I can assume that you have a great attention to detail, which is very important in any job. All employers want their employees to be very attentive to things. So ever free indicates you pay close attention to detail. And then if your resume has a professional appearance, same thing. You're careful and you're competent. So our resumes, again, this is the first step an employer takes to, get you in for an interview. So I'm gonna keep emphasizing, you wanna ensure that your resume looks really nice and really neat. This is the first time an employer will have an interaction with you, especially if you don't have any relationships to the company. If you have never spoke to a recruiter, if you don't have a personal contact, if you've never networked, etc. So now we will begin sections of the resume. But before I move on to this, because this is going to be like the meat and the potatoes of this presentation. So before I move on, are there any questions about why we need a resume? And if you have a question, just come off mute, ask your question. If not, then I'll keep going through. Okay, no questions. So the first section of your resume is going to be the header section. So your header section is just your personal characteristics and how an employer can contact you. So things that'll be in your header section is your name, your LinkedIn profile, your email address, and your telephone number. So personal attributes to let an employer know who you are and how they can contact you. Now, there's one thing on here that you may notice is missing, and that is your address, or your permanent address, your local address, whichever address. Most recently within the career services world and the hiring world, we have moved away from addresses for one particular reason. If you indicate your address on there, it can create bias in the hiring process. So despite you may be a great candidate on paper, you may have all the qualifications, the requirements, you can be disqualified simply for your address. So the employer may say, you know what, Jasmine lives all the way in Carbondale. I don't want to hire her in Chicago because I may have to help with her moving. I may have to offer her, rental assistance. We may have to help her find a location to live here. So you know what, we would rather go with the more local applicant who may not have all of the requirements and qualifications Jasmine have. So just again, most recently, like in the last year or so, we have done away with addresses. So in replace to that, you can put your LinkedIn profile on there. Now, again, you can use that as your discretion. If you want to put your address, please do so. But these are the current trends in the hiring world. So with your email address, as students, I always encourage students when they're searching for internship opportunities and also those first-time experience post-graduation, I always encourage them to use their SIU email, especially if they're in school. That's just a little bit more professional. And if you don't use your SIU email, ensure that you have a professional Gmail to use, a professional Yahoo, which I know is kind of outdated. People still use Yahoo, believe it or not. Your Gmail, Hotmail, things like that. Ensure that your email is professional. Don't put the email on there that you have from high school. Don't put the email on there that has all of your spams from all your shopping stores, all your subscriptions. Use a more professional email that you can easily access or get access to, and you don't have to kind of dig through to find things. Same thing with your telephone number. Ensure that you have a telephone number on there. And also with that telephone number, make sure that you have a voicemail set up. I can't begin to tell you how many times I went to hire a student employee or a graduate assistant. We call. It's either this person has not set up a voicemail and or this voicemail box is full, call back later. At that point, automatically disqualifies a candidate. I don't want to have to jump through hoops. Let's try to contact you. So ensure that all of these things are in the header section. And then an example of what your header section can look like or should look like is this. So this is Brown Dog from university. He has a nice little resume we'll see later on. On here is a LinkedIn profile, which is actually my LinkedIn profile. Then email address, SIU to SIU, then a telephone number. Now you can do any format you want with your header, but these are the components. I see many styles of resume. There's no one set style or format that is correct. Now we'll tell you, be wary of using those Microsoft Office templates, and I'll discuss why later. So the next section of your resume is your objective statement. So the purpose of an objective is to communicate the type of position you're interested in. Our objectives are more concrete and they are clearly defined by certain steps that would eventually allow the person to fulfill that particular goal. It's very important to note if you're going to have an objective statement on your resume, There's not one objective that's going to fit everything you're applying for. So your objective is going to constantly change. Now you can have a format that you can just kind of plug things in and out of, and I'll show you what that looks like on the next screen. But there's not going to be, for example, a student may say, searching for a accountancy internship in an accounting firm. That's very generic, that's very basic. You want something more, a little bit in detail about what you're looking for, what you can bring to the table, what you can offer that company. So also on the contrary to that, you can also include a career summary. Now in the hiring world right now, we're seeing objectives in career summaries. Some employers are like, no, we don't want a career summary. It's long, it's drawn out. We just want an objective. Some companies, they say, no, we need a career summary. So if you see either or, just make sure that you tailor it to fit that company's need, because each company is going to be different. But you should never have both of them on a resume, just one or the other. In a career summary, the purpose of this is to summarize, it's a summary statement that uses work history to show the hiring manager why the job seeker is best fit for the position. Unlike the resume objective, the career summary states focus more on the company's needs and not the needs of the job seeker. So again, like with the objective I stated that you indicate what you're looking for, how you can contribute to the company. With the career summary, it highlights all of your accomplishments, your work history, and it lets the company know why they should choose you. Also, the career summary, it creates a professional summary about you that includes some of your key characteristic traits. Now, again, in the beginning, in the objective, we didn't see a lot of characteristic traits and things like that. It was just very cookie cutter, right to the point. But your career summary, you can include those characteristic traits with additional keywords that match the job description. We'll talk about job descriptions and keywords a little bit later also. So a career summary attracts the reader with some of your biggest and proudest moments in your career. Now, what I suggest students to do, especially like first year students, second year, or undergrad students for that matter, if you do not have a lot of work history, typically they don't, or undergrad students don't have a lot of work history, I would advise them to use an objective as opposed to a career summary. For someone who has been out of their degree for a year or two, who can talk about their undergraduate experience, they can talk about their graduate experience, they can talk about their first job, post-graduation, then I advise those students to use a career summary. If you have difficulty choosing one, you can always stop by our office and kind of get some help. We can talk you through and see how or which one would be better suited for your resume. So here's an example of both an objective and a career summary on your resume. So an objective, this is an example of a good objective. So seeking a full-time entry-level banking career where skills in financial analyst and market trends can help Piggy Bank Incorporated achieve its goal. So it's tell the company what you're seeking, what part of the sector you're seeking in the banking career, what skills you can bring, which is the financial analyst and the market trends, and how can you help them? You can help Piggy Bank Incorporation achieve its goals. So this is very simple, right to the point objective, as opposed to a career summary. I'm a dynamic and motivated financial professional with a proven record of generating relationships, managing projects from concepts to completion, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see the difference between both an objective and a career summary. Again, use this to your own discretion, just say which one will work better for your resume. And again, if you need help with any of this, the Business Placement Center is more than happy to help you narrow down which one is better. Now, for students who are in Business 202 or will go to Business 202, you'll see both of these at some point during that class. But again, this is just how they're laid out. This is kind of what they can look like on your resume. So moving on to your education section, I think this is probably one of the most simple sections of your resume. You can't mess it up, clear to the point. So what's included in your education section is the name of the institution. You can include city and state if it's not a part of the title, and I'll show you what that looks like on the next slide. You always want to include the degree you're seeking. Now, I'll tell you now, for College of Business Analytics students, I see so many times a student would just have major finance, major marketing. Okay, that's all great, fine, and dandy. However, we do have different levels of degree seekers. So we have bachelor students, we have master students, we have PhD candidates. So it's very important to indicate what level you're at, and we make the distinction by having bachelor, masters of, doctoral of. So for students who are on this Zoom, you will indicate your major by saying Bachelor of Science. And it's also very important to note the degree that you're completing. So again, you wouldn't believe how many times I see someone have a Bachelor of Art and Accountancy. There's no such thing as a Bachelor of Art and Accountancy. So students who are in the College of Business and Analytics, you are pursuing a Bachelor of Science. And moving on from that, you will list your degrees in reverse chronological order. So for students who have attended a community college prior to coming to SIU, you will have that listed on your resume as well, but they'll be listed second as opposed to SIU will be listed first. So as an example, we'll continue on with the education. Also, including your education is the date or your expected date of graduation. Now you can write it two different ways. You can either do graduation date, May 2014, or you can do expected graduation date, May 2015. Now, also what I see students doing a lot is they'll put present to May 2023. That's not relevant because your resume and your dates indicate that you're currently present in you're currently present seeking your degree. So you don't have to put present as in I'm indicating I'm doing this right at this moment. You just put graduation date or expected graduation date. Also your GPA. This is something that's not controversial, but this is up to the career choice you're choosing. This will be up to the company. A lot of companies love to see, and I'll tell you guys personally, the companies we work with in the College of Business Analytics, they love to see the GPA. Some companies will not even let you apply without your GPA on there. Your GPA is very indicative of not only your degree completion, how focused you are in school, how well you're doing in school, but your GPA can also tell an employer if you have a work-life balance, if you are a student who are involved in extracurricular activities, but you also have a great GPA, if you have a full-time job, but you also have a great GPA. So it lets the employer know that you can multitask, you can we can wear more than one hat at a time. Now, on the flip side of that, students, say, Ms. Jasmine, I don't have a great GPA. I had a really rough semester. I had family issues. I had to work. I had to do this. I had to do that. Again, your GPA is indicative just of the balance you have. Now, we also see employers say, you know what? If a student don't have a 3.0, we want to see it because guess what? That student may be great on paper. They may be a great individual. They may just have had a rough semester. And if you don't know, I can tell you from experience, one bad semester will tank your GPA, like something serious. And it'll take you 3 or 4 semesters to build it back up. Now, one thing we love to tell students is it takes 2 A's in 2 courses to combat 1 F. So if you get an F this fall, you will need 2 A's in the spring just to combat that 1 F. So it takes time and it takes a lot of effort to raise your GPA. Now, also, SIU have the luxury that they allow students to retake a course. So now they started this a couple years back, maybe 3 or 4 years at this point. If you take a class in fall 2021 and you get a D in the class, you're not happy with that, you can retake the class to replace that letter grade. I'm like, I wish that was around when I was pursuing my undergrad. Like, that's insane. But I'll get off the GPA and move on. But on your resume, you can include your GPA. And then also it's important to indicate the scale that you're using. For example, on here you see GPA of 4.0 on a 4.0 scale. Now, different colleges and universities, they use different grading scales. At SIU, we use a 4.0 scale. At different institutions, they may use a 5.0 scale. And it's just important to indicate which scale you're using. Because if you say I have a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale, like, okay, that student is like, the average student. But if you have a 3.0 on a 5.0 scale, that's completely different. That's like a D student. So it's important to add that. Then high school information, do not include that after your sophomore year. So freshman, if you're in Business 101 and you're like a true freshman, all your accomplishments from high school, absolutely add them to your resume. Once you become a sophomore and more, you should be creating those college experiences that will be added to your resume, and that high school will fall off. So this is an example of um, your education on a resume. So we have a Bachelor of Science in Marketing. To the very right of my screen, it's May 2021. That's indicated when you'll graduate. The university name, Southern Illinois University. And I'm not sure if you remember, but at the beginning, I said to add the city and state if it's not included in the title. So we are Southern Illinois University at Carbondale, so we don't have to put Carbondale, Illinois as our location. Other schools may have to, so Western Illinois University, they would have to put there in Macomb, Illinois. For students who have specializations, you can indicate that. So this student specialization is investments, and then GPA is a 3.4 on a 4.0 scale. So I'll take a break right here and answer any questions you guys may have.
I had a quick question to ask.
Absolutely, Cole, go ahead.
What if you minor in something? Can you put like major then minor, or?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question, Cole, and I didn't cover that. Thank you. So yes, right under your bachelor's, you'll put minor, colon, whatever it is. So minor, colon, marketing, minor, colon, accountancy. Absolutely. And if you have more than one, I guess if you have more than one degree, because we do have some students pursuing 2 degrees at once, you'll include that as well. So you'll say a Bachelor of Science in Marketing. Right under that, you'll say Bachelor of Science in Finance, minor in Marketing. So yes, that's a great question, Cole. Any other questions before I keep going?
Hello, yes, I have a question.
Yes, Mike, go ahead.
Yes, now I'm an online student at SIU, so I had put down on my resume that I was designated as online. So because I live near Chicago, so and I'm planning to get a job up there. So is it all right to designate that I am an online student down there? So this way employers will be able to know, so they won't be able to think that I'm currently down in Carbondale or thinking I'm going to be staying in that location.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question as well, Mike. Yes, it is important if you are an online student to indicate that you're online, which indicates you have more flexibility to work possibly full-time or take online classes. You have the flexibility to move around, work remotely. So yes, Mike, you can indicate that. And where you can indicate that is Bachelor of Science in Marketing. Right behind that, you can put parentheses online or remotely, somewhere to indicate online.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, that's a great question. And also, if you guys have any questions, like I said, just come off mute because I can't see the hand raise feature due to my screen capabilities. So thank you for those questions, Mike and Cole. That was great questions. Any other questions? Okay. So experience section. Now the experience is really the meat and the potatoes of your resume. So we'll kind of cover a lot in this. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So the term experience, what is considered experience? I know when I was in undergrad, even in my master's, I always thought experience was just full-time or part-time paid opportunities. And actually it's not. Experience is anything that contributes to your overall career. So that's full-time and part-time jobs. That's self-employment, volunteer work, practicum, field, and cooperative education. So cooperative education in its incessant, in its whole is internships, externships. So that's what's considered experience, is anything that contributes to your overall career goals, objectives, and things like that. It does not have to be paid at all for it to be experience. So things to include in your experience section is your job title, your dates of employment, the company name, city and state. Also, continuing on with that, your jobs and how to list them. This is how you list your experiences, your responsibilities under the experience section. You'll start each line with the action verb, and I'll show you guys what this looks like in the next couple slides. You'll start each line with an action verb. If you are currently present at that job and currently doing it right now, your tense should be in present. So instead of saying managed, as in the past tense, you'll say manage, like I'm currently doing it right now. If you're no longer employed there, you use the past tense as this job has concluded. That's what I did when I was there. It's important to tailor your skills and experiences to the position for which you are applying. Now, I know that, resumes and job searching can be a huge undertaking. It can be very stressful, a daunting process. People like, you know what, I give up. It's important to tailor your experiences in your resume to the jobs in which you're applying. So if you're a marketing student, you need to be able to use the keywords from that industry on your resume. And I'll show you guys how to in the next couple of slides. Be concise while providing enough details is important. And then also, we're kind of moving away on your resumes. Typically, people list their responsibilities, like, I answer phone calls, I answer student inquiries, I manage the calendar, I schedule the calendar, I've done clerical work, I've done this. Where we're moving toward now in the hiring world and the career world, we're more focused on results and not just responsibilities. So, okay, you can say, I manage the phones, the emails, I send promotional material. Okay, great. Those are responsibilities that you have done. But what results did you get, behind those things? And again, I'll show you how to do that in the next couple of slides. We focus, again, more on results and not just responsibilities. So with that, you want to focus more on key projects you have undertook. Include key contributions you've made to the company as a result of your savvy leadership and innovation solutions. Elaborate on big accomplishments that sell you as a superstar candidate that you are. And remember to please be specific about your results. And again, I know this may be a lie and say, well, Ms. Jasmine, I was just a waiter. I don't know how to do that. I just waited tables, I bus tables, whatever the case may be. There's many words that's out there that we can use to kind of show how you had results and not just I waited tables, I checked guests out, I greeted customers and things of that nature. So on this again, and if you guys are paying attention, I'm starting with the top and going down. So you'll see what the resume looked like entirely as opposed to just putting sections up on the screen. So down here under experience, this person was the Financial Management Association from fall 2019 to present. They were the president, which it was an error on my part. The president of the company should be right below financial management. So I do apologize for that mistake. But if you look at the first 3 bullet points, this is where we're focusing on results and not responsibilities. And then the last 2 bullet points are examples of how we focus on responsibilities. So the first one, manage approximately 35 members in varied charitable and educational endeavors, schedule and organize 10 to 15 professional speakers per semester, increase fiscal year 11 budget by 23% by streamlining membership due payment procedures, drove 50 million revenue growth in 2016, resulting in 25% efficacy and productivity. Mentor 3 officers, grooming them for leadership roles, and then work closely with 25, 30 finance and economic faculty members. Now with this experience right here, it's a combination of both responsibilities, but then also job responsibilities and results. Now, again, as an undergrad student, I know it may be difficult to say, I waited tables. I don't know the results. I don't know the numbers. I don't know the figures. And that's totally okay. But as you kind of go through your career and things, you may want to be vigilant, keeping track of that. So if you have a job where you can monitor the revenue, if you can monitor the online sales, if you can monitor this and that, in your position, help increase that, make sure you're keeping track of that in your mind, write it down somewhere so you can put on your resume. And again, everyone may not have that, and that's totally okay. That is not a negative thing, but this is kind of where we're moving to in the job market. Then the same thing for the Alliance Financial at the bottom, their internship, I won't read it all entirely, but you guys can kind of glance at it and see how that worked up on that part of it. Now I'll keep it right here for a few minutes to just kind of read through the resume. Because we're almost done with the resume. We're kind of moving through each section. We have one more section after this of the resume, and then we'll transition over to the applicant tracking system. So on this experience section, are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question regarding about experience.
Okay.
Okay, now regarding about experience, I work a seasonal job to part of the year. Now, to make certain that employers understand that I didn't work the entire year, is it all right to note on there on the experience for whatever job I had, saying that I had a seasonal job, because they'll automatically assume that I had worked 12 months out of the year, which in reality I didn't. I'm sure a lot of us students have probably had that similar situation too. We only work in the summers, we work the winters, that type of stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Mike. So where you see the date set over here to the right of the resume, say fall 2019 to present, that's where you'll indicate it at. So what you can do, okay, let me draw your attention to the bottom where it say Alliance Financial. So Alliance Financial, spring 2011 to present. Now myself included, I've done many temporary seasonal jobs. So mine may say June 2011 to August 2011. Right below that, I'll put in parentheses seasonal. And then also I'll see a lot of students of ours, they say, this is seasonal every year. So anytime I go home for summer, I work this job. So you can put seasonal / summer, seasonal / yearly. So you can indicate right under that if this is a seasonal job or not. As opposed to, if it says June 2011 to August 2011 without seasonal or without temporary, I'm going to assume, why didn't this person hold this job? What happened? And the first thing I'll assume was they was probably laid off, they was probably fired, it probably didn't work out, as opposed to, no, I'm just a student, I only worked there 2 or 3 months in the summertime. So that's a really great question, Mike. You can indicate that by putting seasonal or temporary.
Okay, great. I was not aware of the annual or monthly thing in that case. I just basically put down season on my resume, but now that I could be able to put down, say on there /annual, whatever the case, that'll work out a lot better.
Yes.
Next question, regarding about the experience in terms of bullet points, what's usually the best, an average number to put on there without making it too long? I know usually for resumes, it's usually no more than 2 pages. What would we put down in terms of for accomplishments or whatever the case may be, responsibilities? What would be like the maximum, I'd say, in this case?
Awesome, that's a great question, actually. So on average, we see between 3 to 5 bullet points per experience. And also it can be longer if you have limited experience, and it can be shorter if you have more things you want to add to the resume. So Mike, I heard you say the 2-pager resume, however, in the career world, we advertise 1. When you go over to 2, employers like, you know what, I'm not dealing with a 2-page resume, unless it's a CV, which is different than a resume. So resumes, we traditionally stick to 1-pagers, CVs, and or second degree or professional degree, then we'll see a 2-pager. But for the purpose of students who are pursuing a bachelor's degree, just 1 page. Resumes is kind of the standard. Again, use it at your own discretion. So to answer your initial questions, 3 to 5 bullet points per experience is traditional and standard of what we see.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Thank you, Mike. Any other questions before we move on to the next section? Okay, we'll keep going. So the last and final section on your resume is your professional affiliations and activities, including honors and awards. So I kind of put these all into one group, but they are separate things. So professional affiliations and activity is one, then your honors and awards is a second one, but they all are formatted the same. So I just bunched them together. So with this, you want to put it in order by date, which is reverse chronological. So from the most recent to the least recent. And or you can rank it in order of importance to your career objective. For example, if a student is a part of the American Marketing Association, but they haven't been a member in over a year, but they are a marketing student and they're looking to work for a marketing firm, that may be more important than them being a part of Polar Plunge this year. So again, you can either do it in reverse chronological order, which give it importance in terms of date, and or you can rank them importance, rank them in accordance to your career objective. One thing to not do on your affiliations is say member of, but I'll show you how to kind of format that so it looks really clean. If you have a position within your organization, please indicate your leadership role, because majority of the time we see students just say a member, when in essence they have maybe been the treasurer before, they may have been the president, they may have been the vice president, but they say, well, Ms. Jasmine, right now I'm just a member. We want to highlight those achievements. That looks great on the resume if you hold a leadership position. And again, it goes back to the initial point where, employers want to see that a student can multitask. They can be a student, they can be a worker, plus they can hold extracurricular activities. The very last bullet point on here is spell out your organization's names. And most importantly, this is the most important thing to do. Spell it out, because there are many organizations, many companies and entities who have the same acronym. So don't leave an employer to assume which one you're talking about. So make sure you spell out the organization's name. Do not use abbreviations or acronyms. So for example, with SIU, that's a good example. SIU, we have SIU Carbondale and we have SIU Edwardsville. So if we put just SIU, you leave the person to assume which one it is. So for example, you see at the very bottom, organization. So again, there's many different formats you can choose to lay out your resume. Each resume will look different. There's no one set format for all resumes. So at the bottom, you'll see organizations. So they got Beta Alpha Psi. They are a student member from the date January 2013 to the present. Now, if you look down to Delta Eta Tau Sorority Incorporated, they have that they're the national president and the founder. Began in December 2012 to the present. So this is how you can differentiate your roles and responsibilities within the organization. Then down to honors and awards, you can put the Illinois CPA Society, great. And then you can do K&J Hall Accountant Internship. So the Illinois CPA Society is the organization or the entity in which you receive the scholarship. The KJ and Hall Accountant Scholarship is the name of it. And then you can put when you receive it. So if it's a full ride or if it's an annual scholarship to kind of replenish, this student they had got it from August 2012 to present. Right below that, the Mary T. Washington Intern Program, there was a scholarship recipient. They'll receive that one time, so they put January 2013. So this is a way that you can keep all your things organized, clean, consistent, and give it enough details. So before we move on to that, do you guys have any questions just about what is included on the resume, how to format it and things of that nature?
Yeah, I have a quick question focused around the accomplishments and awards. I would guess that with those awards, you would probably prefer, if you are an employer, to just keep it high school and above, or is there any way that we would put something below high school experience in our awards with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, okay, I'll say this, it depends. So, for example, I have students who are a part of Boy Scouts and have received the highest ranking. And they're like, well, that happened many years ago. It doesn't matter with that in particular, it doesn't matter. That still is something, a great accomplishment that can highlight. It talks about your skill set. It talks about your morals and values. You pay attention to detail, you will organize, et cetera, and things like that. But if there are things where you I was quarterback for the varsity football team, that may not be relevant to your overall experience in college, so it may not be applicable. So with that, Nicholas, in particular, it depends on what it is you want to include past high school, and I think we can kind of talk about it in private if you want to, if it would be relevant to your overall experience or relevant to your overall resume.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. So resume tips. This is just an overview. Resume tips. Use action verbs. Use short, concise sentences. And one thing to note, if you are doing bullet points are not sentences, so they do not require periods. Use numbers, percentages, dollars amount. Again, that's more on the results part as opposed to the job responsibilities. Keep your resume about 1 page. And I kind of spoke on this briefly with Mike about 1-page resumes. 2 pages are kind of taboo in the business world, but if students have professional degrees, master's degrees, it's kind of okay. Do not submit your resume in Microsoft Word. It is a big no-no. And most importantly, why it's a big no-no is because people use different versions of Microsoft Word. So I may be using 2010, you may use 2013, which means the format will not be consistent across the board. So when you go to submit your resume to any given software, please use a PDF, which is standard across all systems, and or a docx format. Either one. We'll talk about docx in a few slides over. So resume don'ts. Do not use pronouns such as I, me, my, etc. Do not include your reference. So I know that that's a very old tradition. Some of you students may have never seen that added to a resume, but in my time, we have seen what we used to add at the bottom of the resume. It used to say reference available upon request. That is an old, outdated practice. So do not include your reference. References are a completely separate page, which we have in here, and I'll talk about second. Do not cover your resume with non-essential information. So that's why it's important once you become a sophomore, things that are no longer relevant to your college journey, your experience, you want to take those off. And do not make any misrepresentations. I know when I was like in high school and things, people like, well, just lie about it. Like if the company closed or something, just say you work for that company. They can't verify and things like that. The power of the internet is insane. Do not provide any misleading information that can disqualify you and paint you to be a liar. And also what I will tell you is, once you start working professionally, you will really see how small the world is, especially in the world of technology. So right before we start this, any questions just about the do's and don'ts of resumes, just an overview. Okay, the next thing is the applicant tracking system. So the applicant tracking system is a software that employers use to find the most qualified candidates for a role. These systems help streamline the hiring process and remove resumes that do not meet the qualifications. So currently, in the last 2 years, the applicant tracking system has become the #1 hiring tool and resource that companies use. Now, a lot of Fortune 500 companies use this, Fortune 100 companies use this, and this system is very strict. When I tell you, at the beginning when I told you that, humans no longer review applications, so it's very imperative that you are doing what the system asks you. It's imperative that your application is clean, it's concise, it includes those keywords, it includes a lot of information because the system is reviewing this. And with any system, they all have flaws. Humans, we all have flaws as well, but these systems are very strict and they are disqualifying people before they even get to a hiring manager's desk. You don't want to be kicked out the system just because your resume was sloppy. It wasn't in order. You didn't have the keywords the system was looking for. So at SIU, we use the applicant tracking system as well. For bigger positions, student worker positions, graduate assistants, I review them myself. So that's a luxury there. But in the professional realm, these are systems that's processing resumes. So the applicant tracking system, your need to knows, you must tailor your resume to that job description. Your resume must match those keywords. Well, you must match your resume keywords to the skills found in the job description. For example, when you're going to apply for a job, if you're applying for a marketing job, on that description, you may see the word social media highlighted 10 times. That lets you know, or that should let you know, hey, that's a keyword. So excuse me, keywords are things you see repeated over and over and over. And please rest assured, if it's on the description, it needs to be on your resume. The system is going to track for that keyword, and that's how they distinguish if you have the qualifications. It doesn't distinguish it if you have the degree qualifications. Stuff like that is no longer even relevant. Your experience and those keywords are very relevant in the system. Use long form and acronym versions of keywords. So things like management. If you abbreviate the word management, you can ensure that you're abbreviating management throughout. This applicant tracking system does not account for a lot of things that we abbreviate using our slang and our jargon in the professional realm. So it's important that you use a long form of the words. Do not use tables and columns. So I know when people use, when they want to highlight their skills, they typically put in 2 columns on the resume. The applicant tracking system does not account for columns. It can't read tables, so it automatically marks it as a negative indicator on the resume. So again, you can do more research on all this information I'm telling you, especially with the applicant tracking system. There's a ton of information out there. There's a ton of journals, a ton of websites. You can look on LinkedIn for these kind of resources to talk about the applicant tracking system. These are just kind of like snippets of what I think is important for students to know. So use a screen filling traditional format, font. So we always say you use Times New Roman. When you want to get fancy with squiggly lines, cursive, and things like that, the applicant tracking system can't pick those words up. So please use a traditional font. Use standard resume section titles, such as education, experiences, awards, honors, and things like that. I know some majors can get very fancy with words and things, but these systems don't account for those. Don't use your header and footer section of the resume. The header section of your resume is meant for headers, not for your name, your LinkedIn profile, and things like that. The applicant tracking system can't track what's in that header section. So it may present your resume as it's missing a name, a LinkedIn profile, a number. And then again, save your file as a .x. Now with the applicant tracking system, it also has some applicant tracking systems. There's many companies out there who sell this applicant tracking system, so not all companies use the same one. So majority of the applicant tracking systems use and recognize .x forms, and even PDFs can get kind of misconstrued. So these are just kind of things to know about the applicant tracking system. We have a few more here. Oh, wait. Oh, that was only one for the applicant tracking system. So I'll stop here for a second. We should be wrapping up in like the next 3 to 4 minutes. So do you have any questions so far?
Yes, I actually have a question.
Yes.
Okay, now I know you're saying that as far as with the keywords about the applicant tracking system, that it's probably should keep an eye on that. Now, does it improve an applicant's chances if they put the information like almost verbatim by what they say for what the qualifications or what's required, as opposed to those like shown in the preferred section? I know on some job listings they have like that for both in this case. Does that improve if an applicant puts in their stuff that matches like in the required or qualification section? Will that improve an applicant's chances in the tracking system for a hiring manager to review? Or
Yes.
would it be a combination of both?
Yeah, so it'll be a combination of both, but you hit it right on the head with that preferred qualification section. It's important to take things directly out of there to put in your resume. Also from the job description is going to be important to include things from that as well. So a combination of both of them is going to be important for the applicant tracking system, and it'll give you more points towards, I don't know what the grading scale is for applicant tracking systems, they kind of vary, but yes, using those keywords from the preferred qualifications, descriptions, and all that should be kind of included. And again, the language is going to be the same throughout the entire posting or job posting. The language is going to be the same throughout, so yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mike. I do have a quick, I know we're kind of wrapping up now. I did get a message from Jackson. I'm not sure if he's still here, but if any student have to leave right now due to another meeting or something, please write me directly in the chat to let me know that you have to leave, because again, I'm going to take a screenshot of people who are here at the end of it. So if you're not here, once I'm done with the presentation, I will know that we were here. And I'm sorry about that. But we are wrapping up here. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is your reference section. So again, as you build your resume, begin creating a list of people who you can use as a reference. Get permission from those individuals you plan to use a reference, and please avoid using family members. Traditionally, years ago, our family members was our greatest ally, absolutely. But in the world of technology right now, that's something you just kind of don't want to even fool around with if you don't have to. So again, as you build your resume, think of people who can really speak on you as a whole individual, and not just, oh, she was in my class, I know what type of student she is, but I don't know her personally. Think people like your employer, of course, is a great one. A mentor, the dean of the college, not necessarily coworkers, but people who can speak on you as a whole individual. So start thinking about that list of people. And traditionally, references only include 3 people. So have 3 great people. And how you organize those people are like this. So your reference page is a completely separate document than your resume. However, it should have the same header across there. So it can be indicative of, okay, these are Brown Dog references, and these are not just Robinson reference. But your reference are going to include the name of the person, what they were to you. So this is their finance professor, where they currently work, college of business, phone number, email, the position, the relationship they had to you, which was a former professor, and the best time to contact them. So again, this is 3 of them right here, and I will give you kind of like a little insight on a reference. It's important to list your most powerful reference, number 1, because what you'll see is if you have a very strong resume, if you had a really great interview, your employer, the employer may only call the very first reference. If they give you a stunner reference, they may never move on to 2 or 3. And I'll tell you, that's how we kind of do in the college. We don't call all of them. Well, not we, me, in the college. If you have a great resume, a great interview, I'm going to call your first reference. If they give you a great reference, I may never move on to 2 or 3. If they give you oh, I worked with her in class, I don't really know how she's a person, I know about her time management, okay, I'll move on to 2 or 3. But that's just a little insight and reference and things of that nature. So we kind of concluded our resume portion, resume 101. If you need any additional help, I'm in the College of Business Placement Center, or the College of Business Analytics Placement Center. We're located in Wren Hall, Suite 113. That's on the very first floor, right across from the Dean's office. Our number is 618-453-2603. Our website where you can find more information is placement.business.siu.edu. And then our email at the Business Placement Center is just placement@siu.edu. And that's our presentation.